Hey you guys, Ultimate Stuart Fan 14 here, coming at you with another tutorial. Today we're going to be looking at the Aerosoft A320 and A321. Now before we get started, I'm just going to say it looks a lot more menacing when you first get into the cockpit than it actually is. Uh, Doing a little bit of looking through manuals and talking to a couple more seasoned pilots with the Aerosoft A320 than obviously I was when I first started. I learned it was actually fairly easy to operate, a lot easier than even the 737. A lot of people might say, oh, that's because it's automated. And you know what? You might be correct, but believe it or not, I was not a big fan of Airbus before I got this. When I got this, I truly learned that it is, in fact, quite a nice aircraft to fly, even manually for how automated that it is. So let's get started. Okay, so here we are in the really cold and dark, menacing cockpit of the Airbus A321. Now, like I said, it looks really menacing with all these weird gizmos and switches, and if you're like me, again, not a very seasoned Airbus pilot, not a big fan to begin with, I thought, wow, okay, I'm totally screwed. I absolutely know nothing about this. And actually, like I said, fairly easy to learn once you learned all the cool little gizmos and switches. For example, first things first, you gotta turn on the battery, just like most planes. The two batteries are above the bus tie and under all of the fuel pump switches, or in this case buttons. And as you can see, our autopilot display is up and our backup displays are up, but these screens are not up. And you're thinking, how the hell am I going to turn these on? Simple, these little switches right here. This will turn on your PFD and your MFD displays. And then these two switches right here will turn on both your upper and lower ECAM displays. Alright, so we get all these on, you're thinking, alright, so where's the IRS switches? IRS switches are more or less closer to where they would be on the Boeing 737, right up here. And we're just going to switch those one click to the right to nav. And here comes the fun part. My biggest learning curve with this was not actually with the hardware, but was with the software, the IRS. How do I align it? Luckily, we already started off on the initiative page, and it'll say it right here, align IRS. Again, that's on the initiative page. India, November, India, Tango, or init, on the FMC, the button. Okay, so now that we got that set up, we're going to move up here and make sure that all of our fuel tanks are on. Can't do much without the fuel tank. And obviously you're seeing that we got a fault. Now this will happen unless you don't have this on. This right here is our external power. Gotta make sure that we put that on. And obviously that goes away. Now when you start the aircraft in cold and dark, which you can easily access from the co-pilot side FMC or to the right of the pilot's FMC, is aircraft state. And if you click on aircraft state, you can set each state by default, by meaning that when you come into the sim, it'll automatically be set like that. Or you can just left click on the cold and dark state, and the aircraft will go into the cold and dark state that we saw when we first came to the aircraft at the beginning of the video. And also, as I said, it'll come with all of the ground vehicles and accessories already on it in that state, such as the GPU, which obviously we have hooked up here, and wheel chocks, and the door is automatically open. Thus, we have the jetway. Alright, so now that we got all that set up, and as you can see here on the ECAM, which I think is actually a really nice feature, it tells us, or gives us a countdown of how much longer the IRS is going to align. Now obviously you can still do stuff while that's working. Now if you're from America like me and you fly America most often, I don't expect the A321 to be doing that much international traveling, but if you want to give it a shot, go ahead. My suggestion is, if you don't use QNH, you can just click this nice little black, I guess you could say, knob instead of switch right here, and that'll turn it to the units that we use. Alright. So now that while that's aligning, we're going to turn on our seatbelt signs right here, located under the internal lights in to the right of the external lights and the APU switch right here. And we're going to arm the emergency exit lights. And no smoking, you can either put on auto or on. I always keep them on because obviously if you're going to be doing a flight for a virtual airline or you want to play it by the book, there's usually not a lot of smoking going around on airplanes. Seatbelts, I usually put on auto. Again, this is all prior assessment of what I think is, right to do with this. You can obviously do whatever you want. You can keep both the signs on or do it manually, however you feel like. That's another feature I like about this. There's a lot of things that are automated, which obviously makes it a little bit easier on the pilot, but you also have the option to either do it manually or automatic, which I really appreciate. So again, lights, since we're in the gates, I'll just put on my nav and logo, and for the heck of it, I'll just throw on all my other lights because I can. And we're going to go to aircraft doors, and we can just close the front left door, which is the only door which I currently have open. So we're going to close that, and in order to take off you have to go into a certain mode and make sure that everything is set up correctly for takeoff. What we're going to do by that is we're going to make sure that our auto brake is set to max. For takeoff you always set that to max. Make sure that our anti-skid switch is on. We're going to turn our TCAS on, which you can do by rotating this switch here with either your mouse wheel or your right mouse button. Or, excuse me, your left mouse button. And what we're going to do is we're going to make sure our ground flaps, by right-clicking, are in the ground spoiler position. And we're going to make sure that our flaps are set for takeoff. We're going to use one flap today. And as you can see here on the eCam, it'll say our seatbelts, no smoking, and ground spoilers are armed. Alright. Now let's head back over here. Go to ground services. Take out the wheel chocks, which we can do if we have the parking brake on here. And also, before we take out the ground chocks, we might want to turn on our APU, which you can do by clicking the master switch right here for the APU, or just click it. And then we can take off the external power. And then after you click those two switches, that'll go green saying that it's available, and that means that it's on. So now we can take out the traffic cones, the wheel shocks, and the external power GPU unit. Alright, so now that we have all of those out and our APU is on, we can start the engines. Now I'm going to do this a little bit unorthodox. Usually you push back and start your engines while pushing back after you've been cleared, but what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start it here in the gate. The way we can do that is by right clicking this and turning this knob right here to ignition start. And I'm going to start off today with engine 2. Now before we do that, we have to come up here, make sure that our APU bleed is on. And unlike in the Boeing 737, which most of you may or may not be more or less familiar with, we don't actually have to hit any of the pack buttons. They're automatically on by themselves, as well as the generators here. They're either on, or they're faulty, or you can just turn them off completely. By default, they're always on, thus making it so all we have to do is hit this switch right here. And I'm going to start off with engine 2 today. Now if you look here at the lower eCam, we can just take a quick look at our engine statistics. And you can hear that sound. It sort of sounds like a dog barking. That's our hydraulics. A lot of people, when they first get into the Airbus, they have absolutely no idea what that sound is, and that's exactly what it is. That's it right there. That's the hydraulics. And we can feel the engine starting to go there. And if you look up, we can tell that the engine's on because the generator, whichever side that might be on, either engine 1 or 2, will not be faulty. You can just initiate engine 1 now. And as you can see, engine 1 and 2 are now both initiated and both ready to go. So now what we can do is we can just take this switch right here, put it back to normal by left clicking it, and we can head up here, turn off our APU bleed and our master APU switch, which will turn off the start button. Okay, so as you can see, we've pushed back from the gate, and what we're going to do now is look at our upper ECAM here, and it's going to say TO config. That is short for obviously takeoff config, and we can easily check that by clicking the button right here, right next to the ECAM display switches, called TO config. And if everything's set up correctly, your ground spoilers, your auto brakes are set to max, and you have your flaps in the position for takeoff, it should say TO config normal. And from there, you're ready to taxi and head on to your next destination. Thank you guys for watching this tutorial. I hope you enjoy it. I hope it helps you guys. And if you'd like to see my tutorial on the FMC, I'd really appreciate it, and hope you guys want to learn about that as well. So check out my next video. The link will be in the description, and I'll most likely put a hyperlink right here on the screen for you guys to click on. Thanks. Ultimate Stewart signing out.